questions I asked for the symbolic frame were about architecture and physical space and decorations. I asked the directors how the different spaces within student affairs were decorated and how those areas made them feel, and to tell me a little bit about how the spaces were arranged. I asked them about how that is a reflection of the organization's history and core values. And then also I asked them to explain some different symbols and social norms or rituals. We discussed play and where and when that takes place and what it might look like, as well as what the symbols or rituals are that are associated with the Student Affairs organization. What I found with the symbolic frame was that there were several recent positive changes that were made in the various physical spaces in student affairs. Several of the offices had repainted and redecorated because there had been a lack of school spirit prior to, and so in an effort to increase school spirit, several of the departments decided to redecorate using the school colors. Several of them placed large vinyl wall decals of the logo in their spaces, as well as reorganized, purchased some new furniture, and generally just rearranged and redecorated. And they felt that this communicated to their students that they were about student involvement and about school pride. And several of the students, in fact the two that I spoke with, commented that these changes really did exactly that they supported the students and made them feel like Student Affairs was really about the students. One of the most critical changes that happened was specifically in the Student Success Center, where new smart boards were purchased and several other study areas had been updated and made a little bit more student-friendly for group meetings and things like that. And the students really felt like that helped illustrate the point that Student Affairs is really there to serve and help the students. And that's where the core values came in, was that both the students that I spoke with and the Student Affairs directors all said that the changes that had been made to the various offices were reflective of the Student Affairs mission to be about the students and helping the students. As far as play, the directors felt like there was a healthy level of play amongst them. They expressed that oftentimes this play came during their Student Affairs directors meetings, where many of them would poke fun at one another and just kind of crack jokes and be lighthearted with each other. And that also came across in other ways where maybe they would attend one another's events. Especially we saw this with the admissions director and the campus life director, who both expressed times when they had played with one another at various student events and activities. And so play definitely plays an important role within the Student Affairs directors, both at the meetings and in individual relationships. Some of the symbols that were identified within the symbolic frame that represent the Student Affairs Division were identified as food at events. Several people mentioned that whenever they think about student affairs, they always think about free barbecues or events where there is food associated. So that was sort of a symbol that they felt represented student affairs. Another symbol that was identified was the wearing of name tags. Recently, Aaron had created an initiative in which all of the employees within student affairs at the director level or below were required to always wear their official university name tags while they were on the job. And if they failed to wear their name tag and Aaron spotted them, they were fined $1. To my knowledge, based upon the conversations that I had, this fine never actually happened. It was more kind of a joking threat. but the reasoning behind wearing the name tags was so that students would recognize who was in student affairs and feel comfortable asking questions as they saw these individuals out and about on campus. They could easily see that that person was associated with the university and be able to ask a question and feel comfortable using that person's name. So the use of that name tag and the wearing of the name tags was identified as a symbol of student affairs' desire to be out there and be known amongst the students. And finally, the last symbol that was identified was desk trinkets. I was told that throughout the year, Erin will provide different various desk trinkets that represent certain initiatives or things that she would like the directors to remember. So the example that was shared with me was a stress ball in the shape of a hand doing the index finger pointed up, so the number 1 symbol. And the directors were each given one of these stress balls and were asked to write either goals or something inspirational on them and then display them on their desk to remind them to be their best. Another example that was shared was a mustache from an event that the Student Affairs Division had, where it was a recognition breakfast where each of the Student Affairs directors and all of the individuals in their department were invited to come and have breakfast, but they were all required to wear mustaches. And then following the event, were asked to display the mustache somewhere on their desk to remind them of that event. So things like that that were symbolic of times that were shared or things that Erin would like them to remember were identified as symbols. My recommendation for the symbolic frame would be to become aware of organizational culture and be more intentional about driving it. I think that each of the directors and Erin has kind of an awareness of what the culture might be, but there's not really any intentional creation of that culture or like a plan or guide for that. So being a little bit more intentional about creating the culture that they would like to see would help kind of tie everything together and make a little bit more sense to have a plan and direction. So in conclusion, I think the Student Affairs Division at Oregon Tech is a very well-functioning division with an appropriate structure that is working for them. There's good human relations amongst the division and all the members in it. And there's a very good, appropriate distribution of power from the Vice President for Student Affairs down to the directors. And there's a strong culture of helping students and developing and enhancing school spirit. I really appreciated the opportunity to spend some time on this campus and learn more about the Student Affairs Division and the strengths that they possess. Just for fun, I included some other information about campus. The first link will take you on a virtual tour of the campus. The second link is a video of the admissions office singing Jingle Bells. And the third video is a Spirit Week video that Campus Life made. The top photo is a picture of the fountain that's located in the middle of campus, and the Oregon Institute of Technology sign, which is very prominent as you first drive onto Campus Drive. And the bottom picture is a nighttime view of the College Union.